Have you ever heard of a man so rich, so powerful, that he could lend money to entire countries like France and Germany, personally bailing them out of economic crisis? A man celebrated as the savior of Europe, a financial genius who built a global empire from something as simple as a matchstick. This is the story of Ivar Kreuger, the Swedish match king, a name once synonymous with staggering success, but one that would ultimately become a symbol of one of the greatest financial frauds in history. So, how did one man manage to fool the world's most powerful bankers, politicians, and investors? How did he build an empire on phantom profits and sheer audacity? Let's travel back to the early 20th century. Ivar Kreuger wasn't born into old money. He was an engineer, a brilliant and ambitious man who saw a world of opportunity in a tiny, everyday object, the safety match. At the time, Sweden was a major producer of matches, but the industry was fragmented and fiercely competitive. Kreuger's genius wasn't just in making matches, it was in consolidating power. He began by merging Swedish match companies, creating the powerful Swedish Match Company, but his ambition was global. His strategy was deceptively simple, yet brilliantly executed. He would approach governments, many of them struggling financially after World War I, and offer them enormous loans. In return, he demanded a single thing: a national monopoly on the production and sale of matches. Country after country, Poland, Greece, Ecuador, Bolivia, they all signed on. Kreuger wasn't just selling matches. He was selling financial salvation, and in return, he was buying entire markets. By the late 1920s, Kreuger's empire, Kreuger and Toll, controlled over two-thirds of the world's match production. He was a global celebrity, mingling with presidents and royalty. His companies were listed on stock exchanges from New York to Paris, and his name was a guarantee of security. Investors flocked to buy his stocks and bonds, which promised incredibly high, stable returns. He seemed to have a Midas touch. Everything he was involved in turned to gold. He projected an image of quiet confidence, impeccable integrity, and unmatched financial wizardry. The world was utterly convinced. But behind this glittering facade, a dark and complex secret was festering. The truth was, Kreuger's empire was a house of cards. The massive profits he reported, the steady dividends he paid out to keep investors happy, they were largely imaginary. Kreuger was the architect of a scheme that would make modern fraudsters blush. He created a labyrinth of shell companies, moving money between them to create the illusion of income. He forged bonds, falsified assets, and cooked the books on an unprecedented scale. His auditors? He either charmed them, confused them with complexity, or simply lied to them. For years, this system worked flawlessly. As long as new money from investors and loans kept pouring in, he could use it to pay dividends to the old investors. It was, in essence, a colossal global-scale Ponzi scheme. He was robbing Peter to pay Paul, but on a stage so vast that no one could see the whole picture. He was the only one who knew how all the pieces fit together, and he guarded that knowledge fiercely. His success was built not on genuine profit, but on the world's unshakable faith in him. Then came the crash of 1929 and the Great Depression. Suddenly, the river of easy money began to dry up. Credit tightened and investors grew nervous. For the first time, Kreuger's magic touch seemed to be failing. He scrambled to secure new loans to keep the cash flowing, but the world's financial system was in freefall. The pressure mounted. Banks started asking tough questions. Auditors, who had once been so trusting, began demanding real proof of the assets he claimed to have. The walls were closing in. By early 1932, Kreuger was desperate. He traveled to Paris supposedly to finalize another life-saving deal, but there was no deal to be made. The game was up. On the morning of March 12, 1932, Ivar Kreuger was found in his Paris apartment, having taken his own life. Beside him was a note which simply read, "I have made such a mess of things that I believe this to be the most satisfactory solution for everybody concerned." The news of his death sent shockwaves across the globe. Stock markets plummeted. The man hailed as a savior was gone. And then the truth began to unravel. As accountants and investigators dug into his impossibly complex empire, they uncovered the breathtaking scale of his deception. They found forged Italian government bonds worth over $100 million, non-existent assets, and a web of lies so intricate it was hard to comprehend. The Kreuger crash wiped out the savings of thousands of ordinary investors, from small-town Swedes to wealthy New Yorkers who had bet their futures on the Match King. The collapse of his empire revealed billions of dollars in today's money simply gone, vanished into thin air. It was a scandal so large that it led to major reforms in accounting and financial regulation in the United States, contributing to the creation of the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC. The goal was to prevent another Ivar Kreuger from ever fooling the world again. So, was Ivar Kreuger a visionary genius who was simply a victim of the Great Depression? Or was he a cold, calculating con man from the very beginning? The debate continues. Some argue he started with good intentions, but as his empire grew, he started bending the rules, and eventually he couldn't escape the web of his own lies. Others see him as a master manipulator who knew exactly what he was doing all along. What's undeniable is his impact. Ivar Kreuger's story is a chilling reminder of the power of charisma and the danger of blind faith in finance. It shows how one individual's ambition, combined with a lack of transparency, can bring the global economy to its knees. His tale is a timeless lesson. When something seems too good to be true, it almost always is. Thank you so much for watching. The world of financial history is full of incredible stories like this. If you found this fascinating, please hit that like button and consider subscribing for more deep dives into the figures who shaped our world, for better or for worse. Let me know in the comments what you think about the Match King. We'll see you in the next video.